Thank you. Actually, SB 352 is the AB 617 language that was taken from the EJ community. Unfortunately, and we'll be talking about that shortly, many things were not included because it is a three-part agreement. It is the administration, the Senate, and the Assembly, and each has an equal voice. I do want to applaud the hard work, though, of our pro tem, Senator Limon, Speaker Rivas, Assemblymember Irwin, for getting us to this moment. That's a lot of hard work, and although we may not have seen the proposals in print, we certainly had discussions about it. And I appreciate those discussions. And the input, perhaps we weren't part of the group, but to be able to say, well, you know, here's a question I have, or I'd like to suggest that this be included. You have a group for a reason. The bigger the group, the less you're going to get done. So I do appreciate all that hard work. I also want to uplift the concerns of the opposition, and Senator Menjivar began with that. Regarding the premise that this cap and trade or cap and invest program in the end becomes a pay to pollute model. You know, if you've got the money and you're going to pollute, well, you're just going to have to pay. That has been my #1 concern since we reauthorized the cap and trade program, a cap and invest program now. In 2017, we were just elected, and that was the first thing we had to vote on and try to understand it. So at least now I may understand it and be able to ask more of the questions that are pertinent to cap and trade or cap and invest. But starting out, being elected in 2016 and then having to vote our very first votes, quite frankly. And I remember that pressure, especially to some of our colleagues. But in the 8 years since, I've learned that while cap and trade isn't a perfect program, and that was mentioned earlier, it is impactful and has been a critical asset in advancing environmental policies over the last decade. Echoing what has been said, no one received everything they wanted, but it is incredibly important to know that the negotiations with stakeholders has brought us here to this moment. Environmental protections have been increased through the capping of offsets to ensure that we are doing better to phase out pollution of stationary sources. It's also important to recognize that moving forward in 2031, CARB will distribute industrial allowances in a manner that minimizes emission leakages or the risk of emission leakages. As I mentioned earlier, I will be speaking on SB 352, but I do want to emphasize, especially to the environmental justice community, that the conversation regarding addressing air pollution through AB 617 and other environmental investments is not over. You have my word on that. This is not a perfect bill. None of our bills ever are. But between stabilizing the cap and trade market, increasing environmental protections, and putting into place accountability for air quality improvements, I believe the program has improved. Given the dip in auction proceeds, it has been incumbent upon us to send a signal to ensure that the program can continue. And certainly, if there are deficiencies, we as legislators can be vigilant with CARB on ensuring that concerns we hear are addressed in the future. As was mentioned, and Senator Menjivar asked the question, and certainly we recognize we can and we will introduce legislation to address the shortcomings. That's our responsibility. That's what we're here for. We have to be able to hear what the community has to say. And since being elected, my biggest concern, as you know, has been the environmental justice community, and knowing that our communities that are dumped on the most usually have less voice than many other communities. And it's been my honor to be able to be a voice for our EJ community. And even though I never get everything that I request on their behalf, I will continue to fight for that. And I appreciate working with you, Assemblymember Irwin, and with the others to try to get solutions that really are more impactful for our communities that are most impacted by the pollution, by the air quality, the negative air quality. We have to work on that. We have to find ways to really address that. And I look forward to working with you on it.